Welcome to the Down Dog Athletics Podcast, a competitor's guide to mental health and mastery, your resource for conversations around mental health and the mindsets necessary to master every area of your life. My name is Paul Klingen, and I'm a former Division I athlete that struggled with my mental health until I started yoga, which opened me up to other practices that gave me a balanced approach to my physical and mental health. The goal of this podcast is to inspire others to do the same, train and compete like an athlete, while also having the ability to slow down and practice stillness. When you can do both, you find balance and evolve into a greater version of yourself. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Down Dog Athletics Podcast, Competitor's Guide to Mental Health and Mastery. My name is Paul Klingen, and I'm your host. Hope you guys have all had a wonderful week since the last episode that we did with Kirsten McCormick. She's one of the sweetest and also smartest ladies that I know, and it was so awesome to have her on and actually be able to talk to her in person, just kind of pick her brain and talk about her fitness journey and her philosophy. If you haven't listened to that episode, go back to the previous one before this one, listen to this one, and then listen to that one next. She's super smart and has a lot of really good insight, training, nutrition, mobility, and just so many different things, health and wellness. And then she's such just an awesome person. You'll dig her vibe right away. We'll get to today's guest, Nick Pags, but wanted to give a few updates on Down Dog Athletics front. We started the Return of the Athlete program. It's actually a program that Nick inspired me to start. It's an online coaching group where for 12 weeks we dial in one physical and one mental goal. We create a lot of clarity on how we want to do that, and then we keep each other accountable. I help build programs and really tailor it for the people outside of the calls. But really big thing that I'm just really vibing on lately and having a ton of clarity on, what my mission is and what I want to help people do is I want to help people be more athletic, physically, mentally, but I also want to help people practice mindfulness. If I had to put that in a sentence, it would be, making mindfulness more accessible to athletes. I've got some really cool opportunities coming up to work with some high school athletes, some baseball guys that I actually went to the same high school with, and just really cool opportunities that are coming up. And the more, and this is all stuff that we'll cover in today's podcast, which is why I'm kind of diving into this, but the more you seek clarity, the more you spend time with yourself and in that stillness, in that silence, and really are able to figure out like what your soul is calling for, that's when you go and find that thing that you're really passionate about. That's when you go and find the career. That's when you go and meet the people that are super aligned with you from an energetic standpoint. And as much as COVID has sucked this time, or this, not this time, it's only happened one time, as much as COVID has been a really hard time for a lot of people, I hope you're not just letting this year go to waste and using this time of stillness, of not spending as much time with other people, of not having as much going on, to really just do some internal auditing. Spend some time meditating, spend some time journaling, spend some time just going on walks by yourself without your phone. Really figure out like, who are you? What is it that you want? What is stuff that's missing? And then at that point, it's like, identify what it is that you need to do. If that means getting an accountability partner, getting a friend, getting a coach, joining a group like the one that I created, like the ones that Nick's got. There's so many different groups, so many different people that are holding space for people to just amplify their lives to the 100%. And without further ado, I want to get into today's guest because that's what Nick does. Nick is a coach. He's a speaker. He's the creator of Project Limitless. I love following his stuff because he works with a lot of coaches, especially, and getting them to just think bigger about the impact that they can have. He's also a Lululemon ambassador, just like me, Performance House trainer, Therabody founding master trainer. If you go on his Instagram, the guy is all over the place, New York-based, and does a lot of cool things. As I mentioned in last week's episode, he also may or may not have been in Summer House. My girlfriend wanted me to mention that. And then he just spent the last month at this Honey House TV spot in LA. Super fun to watch, super fun to check out. The guy is just as motivating as it gets. And the big thing that he said on this podcast that stood out to me is act boldly consistently. And when you do that in any realm of your life, relationship, business, body, mind, if you do that consistently and do it boldly, you're going to see massive changes. Let's get into today's guest, Nick Pags. I'm super pumped for you guys. Hope you enjoy it. Nick Pags, what's up, man? Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Happy to be on.
Yeah, so I was joking with you before we hopped on. I found him, if you guys have listened to the episode with Sam Tooley, I found him on Sam's post where he was lifting with Mike O'Hearn, and anyone who's ever lifted or watched the Titan games or basically ever thought of what Thor would look like in real life, it's this guy. Look him up on Instagram. But these guys are all working out together, and I was just like, who are these people? How are they reverse bench bicep gripping with with this guy, and I've been following his content ever since. And the other thing that I'm really impressed that I didn't mention is the backflip burpee. I don't know if you can teach
Oh
me
yeah.
that, simply because I think that's your thing, and I'm a little bit more slow twitch in my muscle fibers, and if I tried that, I would definitely break.
It's
So
not a slow twitch thing. It's definitely not slow twitch.
no, definitely not slow twitch. I got in a surfing accident probably like, yeah, 2 years ago, and then I got ran by a trolley in downtown Seattle. And ever
Oh
since then,
man.
like chest up, I'm like, all right, we're just going to take a break on anything inverted, and even handstands. So I'll leave that to you. And but that's
I'll take
definitely
that.
something that I find super inspiring and just savage. But as I mentioned in the introduction, you got a lot of hats that you wear, but at the same time, what I found from your content, and the thing that I love the most, is the conviction that you have when you speak, and how you are super dialed into your passion, and also pulling out of people their passion and getting the best out of them. When I listen to your stories and listening to the testimonials of the clients that you work with, it's really inspiring to hear how you're really calling them to the level that they can be, and also that their clients need them to be. That's something I've heard you talk about, is like someone is begging for you to show up as your best self, and it might just be one person, but don't let that one person be insignificant. And that's another thing that I saw in a video you recently posted, was like, and I love it, now that person gets more attention. Now I get like the best testimonial ever, because it's not scaled, right? There's always going to be an inverse relationship. So I've been
Mhm.
talking a lot, and I want to hear from you. What got you into initially the fitness industry and the wellness space? And I find that a lot of people who get into service industry, especially with training, have a why that they really inspires them and motivates them to help people solve that same problem. So I want to hear from you kind of where it all started when you got into training at really a young age.
Yeah, what's interesting is that I never really had like some dope story as to something that inspired me to get into the fitness space. But here's the background: is that when I was in high school, we had an opportunity for the last quarter of our senior year to go work on site at a job that you wanted to essentially do for a living, right? So I wanted to be a physical therapist. So I ended up doing the whole end of my high school career in a physical therapy department of a gym. So I was in this local gym, which was 2 minutes from my house, and I would spend 6 hours there. But after 3 hours, they were like, dude, we have nothing for you to do. You got to get out of here. But we were in a gym. So they would send me to the personal trainers section of the gym space, and I would just hang out with them and watch what they did. And I ended up wiping towel, like using, the spray, wiping down machines and I was doing it for free. At that point, I was an intern. And then they hired me for the summer. And then as the summer came on, I was just so passionate about, I love making people feel good. Like I just love the energy of the gym space. And that's where it all began. And actually at that point, trainers were kind of hiring me when they would go on long weekends for like vacation or something. And they would hire me to train their clients for like, they would give me like $20 or $15, and I'd be
Oh
like,
man.
"What? Yes, it's so much better than the $7 I'm making right
Yeah.
now." So, yeah, I would get super stoked to just like the learning. It wasn't even about the money; it was the learning. And then as I went to college, I wanted to be a physical therapist. Turned out it was not really my path, so I studied to be a counselor or something in that field, social work counselor. I was getting my undergrad in counseling and human services. So I really wanted to help people and connect with people. And as I was doing that, I was also becoming a trainer. I was studying to get my certification, and I got that at 19. And when I would come home, I would train people just to make some extra money. And that's really where it all began. And as I graduated, got ready to go to get my master's in counseling, I started doing the personal training thing full time, I guess you could say. I was waking up doing the dirty like 4 a.m. wake ups, work till like 1 in the afternoon, do some trainings, like that kind of stuff. And at that point, I had no idea what it was going to turn into. And eventually I was working with 50 clients at one time. Like it just exploded because it was this big box gym.
Wow.
And a lot of the trainers were just kind of like going through the motions. And I was going above and beyond because I loved it. I was this fresh kid, like really into it. Right. So that's where it all began. And I realized, holy crap, I can make a real living out of this. I was making $27 an hour at that point, which is a very different thing than what I'm doing now. So to watch that come up from where I was doing that to being able to eventually leave there, start my own personal training business, and then go into the group fitness space and eventually be a co-owner of a group fitness studio in New York City and in Westchester, New York, and then step away from that and go full time on my speaking business and coaching business. It's been a cool journey to watch that grow and evolve.
Yeah. And a lot of the things that I've heard you talk about, and kind of a line that goes in between everything that you've done, and I want to hear you speak about it, is just like the above and the beyond, or the inefficient, and doing the things that wouldn't be like file people in, file people out, that little extra, that whether you're a trainer, you own a gym, or you're doing the mindset coaching, really is what separates you. And obviously you have super high energy, and you're able to elicit that out of people as well, and get high energy out of them as well. So what are the things that you think that you do really well, or that you've worked to do really well, to go really above and beyond and really do things that might seem as inefficient, but in the long run, it's just blown you up?
Yeah, I'll tell you this. For so long, I was watching people around me just do enough to get by. And what I thought was cool and impressive when I was younger, meaning like in the beginning, 17, 18 in the field and watching people work in the fitness space, was it was cool when somebody did very little work or got away with doing very little, but still got paid for it. Like that was what was cool in my head. I was like, yo, this guy's doing nothing and he's getting all this money.
I
And that's what
remember
my
that.
friends talked about. Dude, that feeling of just like watching somebody do essentially nothing and get paid for it, like sit there on their phone while their client does reps. And that was like the goal. I remember, I don't know when it happened, like the exact moment, but I clearly remember the feeling, the shift in feeling of going from like, how can I do the least amount of work and get the most for it? And then immediately shifted into like, I just want to feel so good about the effort that I put in. And I want to go so far above and beyond what I'm expected that I'm going to get what I should be getting eventually. And it was
Yeah.
like a trusting thing. And I'm not kidding. It's ironic that we're talking now. Now I'm 28. That was when I was 17, 18 when I realized that. And I think now it's starting to pay off at that level. Like it always was slowly paying off, but like now I feel like I'm getting due diligence for the time I'm putting in for some stuff. And it was a real mindset shift. And this is what changed everything. When I realized that I wasn't going to get what I want. I was going to get what I give. So like if I give above and beyond, I will then get paid above and beyond. And I realized that the first time I really realized it was a client named Roger of mine. Roger is really how you pronounce his name. He's French Canadian. And he would come to the sessions and he would always say to me, like, this is what I can pay you. This is what I have. Like, this is what I'm capable of paying you. I can't go above and beyond this spot right here. And I remember just saying to myself, I'm just going to give him everything I have, not to get more money, because he was somebody who trusted in me, who was with me from day one. I was all in on him. I would give him everything I had. His partner then became a client of mine, and I would give him everything I had. And we just like, I worked my tail off to give them the best experience possible. And I remember one day he sent me he paid me for a session, and I had charged him $75 leading up to that. And he just paid me $100. And I was like, what's this? And he goes, that's your new rate. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, you deserve it. Somebody who gives this much and constantly puts effort into improving and evolving the experience deserves way more. And he says, you deserve more than this. I just can't pay it to you right now. So this is what I can offer. And from that day on, gave me $100. And that really taught me, like, dude, you don't get what you want. You get what you give.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a thing that took me a little while to understand too was, just because you're doing it now doesn't mean that it's going to happen immediately in a few months, and even in a few years. Like where you're at now is a result of the actions that you were taking 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago. So your business is struggling now. It's not because you're doing bad things now. It's because a year ago you were cutting corners. And I think that's like kind of a thing that you're talking about, where you don't just plant apple trees and get apples the next day, right? It's going to take a long time. You got to water it and you got to be patient with it. And I love that story because I've seen things like that happen similarly. And it's what you're talking about too, is you have your core values or you have your identity. And when you go and do the bare minimum, it clashes with that. In a way, it almost takes more energy to not try once you bring yourself to that level.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't even, I'm going to mess this up and butcher it, but I heard it before and it was like something that really triggered me and got me fired up when I heard it. I think it's a bamboo tree. I'm not positive, but it's someone like Les Brown or something tells the story of this bamboo tree, and that this guy kept watering and watering and watering for years, like over and over. And everybody was laughing at him because nothing's coming out of the ground. And he said, trust me, the thing will come up. And what happens with bamboo trees, don't quote me on it, but I think it's bamboo trees,
I've
is
heard
that
this
they
story. So
right? They
you're on the
grow
right, you're on the right vein.
underground.
Yeah.
Yeah, they grow underground. So there's so much going on, and you have to take care of them and nurture them for time and time again before you see results. And if that guy gave up because he wasn't seeing results, it never would have happened. But because he trusted what was going on underground, that thing sprouted and exploded to be the biggest tree in town, right? So then everybody's like, wow, how'd you do that? It's knowing that the work you're putting in and the time you're doing it and the effort you're putting in, you got to trust that it will be paid back. Maybe not in the way you think it'll be paid back, but it will be paid back in a way that serves you exactly how it's supposed to.
Absolutely. And as you were saying that too, it just made me think too of like the foundation. I'm in Seattle
Mm-hmm.
and we're just building buildings. You're in New York when you're working. It's like, how deep do those foundations go? And one of the things I've noticed, and it's something I picked away from my yoga practice specifically, is like the more grounded and rooted in who I was in building that foundation, the harder it was for hard times to blow me over. And so, like when
Absolutely.
you're talking about that bamboo tree, I've heard that story. I can't remember if it's Les Brown or whoever it is, but it's a really good analogy.
Mm-hmm.
Curious when you were talking about him, who do you look up to in the speaking space? Who are kind of the people that you emulate and really look up to?
My number one is Eric Thomas, E.T. the hip hop preacher, Dr. Eric Thomas. I've been following him since I was probably 16, 17, and watched him every single day, literally every single day. At school, I would watch him when I was studying in college, and when I left there, I would be doing these 3:45, 4 a.m. wake ups with 2, 3 hours, 5 hours of sleep maybe, and I needed to like get up, and I was sleeping in my parents' basement. Classic, right? Sleeping in my parents' basement, but in the basement there's no windows, so like you would wake up and it'd be pitch black dark, like a hole of darkness. And it's so hard. I remember it being so hard in the winter to like get up and move and go open the gym by 4:30. And I would turn his voice on, and he had such a unique, passionate way of connecting with people. And a lot of the way he does it um, gave me the freedom to say, I can do it. It wasn't like I needed to be like him. I mean, I admire him greatly as a human, as a person, and personally now that I've met him. But there's an authenticity to his voice of like he's speaking from where his heart tells him to go. And that's really what I've channeled. And I think I've kind of had in me for a long time, maybe my whole life, because I just have been raised in a way where I was given the freedom to speak my heart and my mind. Um, and when I met him in person, man, it's one of those moments where you pray that your idol is exactly what you wish them
Yeah.
to be, but they never are, right? Because it's like, man, what a jerk. Like he didn't even sign my shirt or nothing like that. I met him. I paid all this money that I did not have for me and my assistant at the time to come and meet him at the VIP thing. And I wanted her to just be like recording everything. So I paid for her ticket and I got there. And I remember we were waiting in line. I had just stood up and spoken, and I asked him a question, but I knew it was my opportunity to get his attention. So there's a VIP section. There's like 100 people in there, all paying all this extra money to be around him. And I stand up and I ask this question. And through the question, I started speaking because I knew if I could just get him to hear me, I'll get his attention. And that's exactly what happened. And before he answered the question, he looked around the room and said, look out for this guy. We're going to be seeing him very soon. And in that moment, I realized that the biggest dog in the game, he's number one motivational speaker in the world, not by my standards, by like, if you look at the numbers, he is
Yeah.
the top dog. To hear that from him shifted everything. And then when I was able to get in line and go shake his hand, this dude, the second I shook his hand, it was actually embarrassing. I just broke down, like just started crying, because we don't get the opportunity to say thank you to our heroes often.
Yeah.
So it was such a gift to be able to just say thank you. And ever since then, like that moment, he gave me his cell phone number. I ended up going on trips with him for his VIP trips and all. He's an amazing authentic, wildly, like almost, it's like being the energy that a friend of mine explained when she met Mother Teresa. She said there's an energy from the human that like you just don't feel around other people. That's literally what you feel when you stand with Eric Thomas. He's a powerful man.
Yeah, and I think what makes his speaking and message, and I remember one time it was like the Warriors lost to a team that they shouldn't have lost to. It was like a year or two ago in the NBA
Yep.
Finals, and his post was like, "You can win. Like you don't have everything that every single big business has. You don't have the money, you don't have the staff, but as long as you believe, like you can still win. Like a chip in a chair, I always say." And the conviction that he speaks with and his energy and his vibration is so high that it literally like pierces people. Like that's what I feel like anytime you have like a really good speaker, someone who's like in spirit with you. And
Yep.
so what I find really cool with that is kind of what you were talking about is like as soon as like you get in kind of the presence or of him or Mother Teresa, like you're feeling that. And that's why he's able to connect with so many people, is because he's so authentic and
Yeah.
because he's hitting you at like your deepest emotional level. And then the last thing I haven't spoken, but like in teaching group fitness, right? It's a transference of energy. I'm not lifting weights, but you can
Yep.
also feel how like that actual energy transference could like completely drain you as well.
Dude, 100%. And like if you've ever spoken on any stage, if you've ever done a speech in class, like you finish it, your adrenaline's so high and you're like, woo, you like just shut down at the end, right? And that is what I feel more exhausted after the work I do like this, where I'm connecting with people, I'm doing speaking engagements. I feel more exhausted than I did when I was teaching 5 classes a day, running around, and I was running around like a maniac, like jumping on treadmills with people. I mean, I was teaching crazy hours when I owned my studio. And now I have learned even deeper how to put myself fully into the moment. And that's why like I get paid a lot of money to do the speaking I do, because people, you feel that, right? And it sounds so like not tangible, but the truth is, when a speaker is all in, and it because the impact that it generates for that group that you're with. So when I speak, by the end, like you have all of my energy. It's why I charge a lot of money, because my energy costs, right? And what we have to understand a lot of times in our lives is that energy costs. Money is an exchange of energy. So if I'm going to give you all my energy for that hour and empty my tank and give you everything so that the people can leave there with something that they can really shift their life with, if that's the case, then it needs to be a fair exchange of energy.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that too, because with that exchange of energy, you're potentially elevating them to maybe a higher frequency or whatever you want to call it, to the point
Mm-hmm.
where now they're able to double their income. Now, how valuable is that? If in 1 hour you can double someone's income, right? That's a crazy ROI. And so when I've heard rates of speakers, right, or you hear ET or what's his name, Andy Frisella is another guy that will be kind of on those same stages, and they're like, oh, it's $50,000 or however much they
Mm-hmm.
make for an hour. At the time, at first, you're like, to speak, really? But you can also see like how powerful it can be for the people listening, and
Yeah.
from a return on investment standpoint, it definitely makes sense. Going into a speech, I'm guessing at the start, when you're getting into it, there may be some false starts. What are some practices that you've put in place to make sure you don't drain your energy, or you don't get so hopped up, or that you don't go and end up on a completely different tangent, to have like some structure going into it and maintain maybe your breath or something along those lines within your speaking engagements?
Yeah, I set an intention before every session. So the first thing that I'll mention with this is like it's nothing crazy fancy. You talk about like a Tony Robbins, and I admire the way he does it, and I look forward to learning more about this. I'm pretty fresh in the speaking game, so I'm still learning my um, tactics and how I will show up. But I bring 100% energy every time, and usually that comes from me like taking a moment. My heart starts racing. I start getting sweaty palms, and I don't really get nervous about the speaking. It's just the adrenaline gets so heightened. And what yoga has allowed me to do, what meditation has allowed me to do, what transformational coaching has allowed me to do, what mindfulness practices has allowed me to do, is really just go inward, instead of like, oh my God, there's so much energy out here. That's when, you know, if you've ever seen somebody when they're not a seasoned vet at speaking, they come on stage and they try and put so much energy that it's like overwhelming and almost uncomfortable. That's the danger zone, right? So what I actually ask myself to do is I set an intention and say, I am committed to creating breakthroughs and powerful experiences for the individuals that are listening to me today, and I will do whatever it takes to create that breakthrough for them. So it's not about me anymore. I don't get as nervous anymore. I commit to helping those in the audience and supporting them. And that allows me to like take the attention and pressure off of my work, because I'm not a speaker that has all this information. I'm a speaker that asks you the right questions so you can figure out your own answers. So I'm just a very, I trigger you at the points that you don't like to talk about. And that's where the work becomes so valuable, because what people do, Paul, is like they just hide. They hide from their stuff that's killing them. They avoid the things that are coming up in their lives that are screwing them over, that are keeping them from abundance, from tons of money, from tons of success, from happiness, from fulfillment. They hide from those things. My job is to make you visit the demons, visit the devils that are beating you up, visit your opponent so you get a look at them, and you got a better chance of beating them when you get to understand them more. But a lot of us just don't take the time. So I help you go through that journey of visiting what is it that's keeping you feeling limited? What are the self-limiting beliefs that are keeping you from creating the life that you want? Let's visit the questions that are going to ask you all the things that you're avoiding. And that's what really triggers people for me and allows me to get some work done with them.
Absolutely. As you were saying that, I was just picturing people hiding behind like a fence or a rock, and you're just coming in with this, part of the random analogy, like this Pokemon energy that's just like boom, and you knock out the rock, and they're like, oh shit, I'm exposed. And it's in that time when they can go in and like see them for who they really are, like kind of like I shine the light in that dark corner. And then what I've found is there's like a small window in which they'll either go and step into that, or they'll find another rock to hide behind. And that's kind of like the follow-up where people, whether you see it all the time in fitness, really anywhere where people need to make a change, is like as soon as you recognize maybe your nakedness or whatever it is that got exposed, it's like that's when you got to go and take action. You can't just wait 2 weeks and be like, oh yeah, that speech was really good. It's kind of, you've kind of like sealed up that wound in a way.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and I love this topic, dude. It's beautiful what you just said. It is natural. It's in our DNA to play it safe. Like as human beings, since day one, all we did was protect ourselves, right? Like hide from the predator, create shelter, go gather food so that we don't die of hunger.
Stay in the tribe.
Like that's it, right? It's all about safety. Yet isn't it unreal that all the things that you see on social media that people talk about wanting in their lives, they're all things that don't come from safety. They actually come from getting uncomfortable. So when I work with people, I always ask, like, do you want what you want, or do you want to play safe? Because they don't live in the same room, and you got to get in the room with your results. So when I'm working with individuals one-on-one or in groups, like this is what I'm passionate about is groups and being able to connect with a group of people, even when I'm working with one person. So I'll coach someone live in front of a group and everybody can get connected to it. That's my special sauce, right? And what I've learned is that when I ask those questions, it opens awareness to the habitual conditioning that you live in, which is I am trying to stay safe. I don't know it. I haven't raised awareness to it, but I'm constantly running from rock to rock, hiding. Why? Because, and it's not a bad thing. It's just, it happened when you were younger. At some point, you created this conditioning to protect yourself, whether it's mommy, daddy issues, whether it's I've been hurt physically, emotionally, mentally in some way, whether it was a bully thing. You realized at one point that being your authentic self and stepping into your power, like totally being you and being vulnerable, was really scary and risky because Sally at lunch would make fun of you for being the way that you naturally are. And then you created protection mechanisms that you created a neural pathway that said when an event happens that offers vulnerability, do not show vulnerability because you will get hurt. And you've created this neural pathway. This is not like Nick Pag stuff. This is science, right?
Yeah.
Your neurons fire at an event with vulnerability involved and tell you you are conditioned to go to safety mechanism when that moment happens, any moment with vulnerability. And what I'm offering you is not the fact that it's easy to just like, oh, do the opposite. But what I'm telling you is it's not impossible to do the opposite. It's simply an awareness that, oh, crap, I just noticed I'm doing this on repeat. I have awareness of the fact that I'm always protecting myself and running from rock to rock. And now I choose to stop that in the moment where the event happens and vulnerability comes into play. I'm going to stop at the crossroad and say, I choose the opposite. I'm going to open to vulnerability and take that risk. And the second you start paving that new path, that becomes your new neuron pathway of choice. And you start to live this abundant, energy-filled, like just amazing 10 out of 10 life because you're living in that choice.
And I think what allows almost like movement people or strength people or personal trainers to make the transition into what you're talking about with like neural pathways and coaching is the body moves and grooves the same way the mind does, because the mind is what moves and grooves the body. So I always use the analogy, I have a really bad squat. If I change that up to clean it up and have a better neural pathway and a better thought pattern, I can do it really slow. I can do it really light. I can do it when there's no pressure. But as soon as you increase the stress, training, load, speed at which you're doing it, it's more likely you're going to revert to that grooved pathway. And so what I've found that I got to do and what other people got to do is you got to be really mindful and slow in grooving that like dirt road. Like it's a dirt road.
Yeah.
You could take I-90 because that's what you've always done. It's really easy, but you got to groove that dirt road so that when stress does happen and you are faced in a real life situation where your vulnerability is being challenged, you naturally subconsciously take the new road. And that's what training is. You're trying to train someone to move better as a human being in a way. And so I love that you said that and that you use like the science neural pathway stuff, because it's you're not making it up. Like that is exactly how it works. And as soon as people can realize, here's the awareness I have of where I'm at, here is the route that I take, I want to take a better route. It's going to take time, but you got to practice taking that better route in slower steps and kind of build that trust and that belief that you can actually do that and not revert to your worst version of yourself.
Yeah. And sometimes it comes from taking bold action, right? So I have a course that I'm teaching now called Project Limitless. This is a program right now. I have 17 individuals in it, and it's super intensive. It's 4 days a week of coaching. It's amazing, 8 weeks long. And what we do in this is we really practice. The mission is create an experience of limitless, right? I want to feel what no limitation feels like in my life, like literally not being limited by anything. And that's a long practice. But what I've noticed, just like you're saying, is this takes time and energy and focus and constantly reframing the conditioned path that we're on. So we're always going to go down. We're going to have the event. We have that, that road started as a dirt road, like you're saying, but then it became a 1 lane, then a 2 lane, and then a 5 lane freaking highway. Like we're just constantly going down that path. Yet this positivity, optimism, shift of thinking is still a dirt road because we just never go down it, or we rarely go down it. And it's not that it's not there, right? When people ask me like, okay, Project Limitless, I'm going to pay this amount of money to go be a part of this program. Why? What do I get back in return? I ask them, seriously, what do you want for your life? Because you keep talking about the stuff you want and then how you're going to fix it and not do anything about it. The mission with something like Project Limitless and the work that I do when I coach is I'm not giving you, like, I can't say you're going to make X amount of money in 8 weeks. I can't say that because it's not my life. It's yours. You make the decision on what you're going to generate. But I will be on top, and the work we do is cracking that repetitive conditioning. It's neurological work through conditioning, through mindset, through breakthrough experiences, in a method that I often use is called ABC method. And I built this like a year and a half ago, and it totally changed the game for my clients. It's act boldly, consistently. And if you took nothing else out of this podcast today, if you just heard this, take this with you and try this. If every single day you did one thing that was bold, and I mean bold, and most of y'all will hear this and be like, bold, I'm going to like I'm going to not eat that extra sandwich I was going to eat. No, I'm talking about like bold, like uncomfortable, like makes you sweat and shake a little bit. Like if you hate being on camera, like post a full video of you on social media, like that's bold. Or like really uncomfortable. Call that person that you are scared to talk to and tell them your real feelings about them or whatever. Like that's bold. Only you know what bold is for you. If you did that once a week for 1 week, once a week for 1 week, that's 7 bold actions. If you did that, I promise you, your life will look very different than it did the week before. Your life will look different. How you show up will look different. How people treat you will be different. How you feel will be different. Your experience of what's coming up next in your life will be different. The income and impact you create in your life will be different. I mean, in 7 days. I have seen it happen over and over and over again. But very few people are able to commit to really getting bold 7 days in a row.
Yeah. Dude, that's
I think
powerful.
that's a huge piece of it. Yep.
That's hard. I'm glad that there's 2 things in there. I mean, 3 really. It's like there's the action, because the action needs to come after the awareness. You can't just be aware and then you're like, I know I suck, I'm just going to continue to suck. Like you can't do that. Bold, where it's like I'm training for a marathon now, and for a while I thought me acting boldly was running a half marathon, and it was like the biggest thing. Like I said I would never do it, scared the shit out of me, and then I was like, I need to just do it instead of like running away from it. And then the consistently part thing too, as well. You build that momentum and all of a sudden you've got 7 days under your belt and you're like, wow, I did 7 days. You do 14, and then you do 14, you do a month, you do 2 months, you do 3 months. One of the things that you said, I've heard you talk about too as well, that I really love is posting things on social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of declaring your goals, declaring like what it is that you want. And the thing that I love about you and your journey, and it's been inspiring to me, is you're not ET. It's very easy to post content when you're ET. You've done it. You have that validation. You have that entire work, but you're showing people your journey and kind of exposing like, here is my growth. I was, personal training, and then I was doing this, and then I'm doing this, and then I'm doing this, so that people can see that you weren't just an overnight success. And you're posting like random like phone videos of your speeches, as opposed to being like, all right, no, it's I gotta wait till it's on screen. I got a camera crew. It's perfectly lit, perfect audio, and you're just letting it rip. And I love that, dude. Is that something you've always done, always had that mindset, or were you challenged to do that? Talk about that a little bit.
Bro, do you know how many people don't do stuff in their lives because they're waiting for the perfect setup to do it?
99.9% of
dude,
everyone.
Oh my God. If people just stopped that, the world would be overflowing with ridiculous creations and energy. And oh my God, if that one thing in this world changed. But if you talk to anybody about what they're going to do for their living, or like their next thing that they want to do, or their vision for this, or their dream this, it's always comes with a caveat. I would love to, but I can accept. I would, but like it's always a cut off. And we create, again, these limitations. They're self-limiting beliefs. It's not possible because. And if people just shut up about that, right? And I'm only passionate about it because I did it for so long. Like I didn't post on YouTube, on Instagram, on social, anything related to speaking, because first of all, it was an insecurity about me, and I knew I was good, but I was like, hold on, I'm good, but to make me great, I need the pretty lights and the fancy camera and the camera guy and the good angles. Like that was an insecurity, and you got to check yourself and ask yourself, am I living in my insecurity or am I living in my truth? Ask that question a lot. But I remember saying to myself, like, okay, it's now been a year of doing wildly deep, impactful work with people that freaking nobody knows about because it's not on social media. Folks, you have a system of free marketing that our parents had to pay $100,000 for a dumbass 30-second like TV commercial. Yet you're complaining that you don't know how to get attention on you or build your business or whatever. And you have Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and TikTok and Snapchat and all these things that are free marketing. And you have the nerve to say it's because of something or someone else. You are simply wrong. And you're a lazy ass. if nobody's going to say it to you, you could be mad at me. Maybe our relationship's going to hurt a little bit. Sorry before you even met me. I'm telling you right now, some of you are just too timid, or you're creating BS excuses about where you're at and the things you need to make your dream a reality. So like you're saying, I just started posting content on social media partially because ET used to do TGIM, Thank God It's Monday, every single morning. And I would watch him and be like, yo, if he could do it, like, why am I not doing it? This is a grown ass man. Like, and he figured out YouTube in a way where it's like, I'm just going to post the thing, and it got better as it goes. But if you don't generate action, and it's a confidence thing, Paul, and I have a little system, a 3-step system for bulletproof confidence. But if you want confidence, the first piece is you got to act. You got to take action. And if you don't act, nothing's going to happen. So you could keep talking about the thing you want. And until you're like, I want the pretty lights and the bubbly background and whatever, like, dude, because you don't have those things, you're not going to do anything, then nothing's going to change. As my good friend Brian Mazza says, nothing changes if nothing changes. So go do something, generate some shift so that you can create some type of outcome.
Yeah, dude, I love that so much. It's so for me, I'm coming up on my 2-year anniversary where I left my job at Amazon. And
Congrats.
it was, so I feel like I'm watching you do this. I'm like, man, like I'm like following this path, right? I got several other buddies who like just recently started podcasts a year or two ago, and it's motivating to see that, because then it's like you start to get there's a concept I've thought about recently where it's like we all have these big ass mountains, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things I love being able to do is dream bigger, and then those mountains become stepping stones to that bigger mountain. And so I'm like, all right, I want to have 100 podcasts. It's like, no, I want to have 1,000 podcasts. Then all of a sudden getting to 100 isn't that much bigger. But anyway, I say coming up on that 2 years, because for me, it was so hard. Like you were like, oh, I'll quit my job when I've got enough money coming in. I'll
You'll
quit
never
my
have enough
job
money.
when I have this certification. And that's a big one that I'm on. I need a certification. Now I think I need a PhD in neurobiology. And it's like, I know I don't, but in order to like talk mindset, like that's the stories. I'm saying this out loud because I know other people listening to this will be like, okay, like that's great. Like these guys like had other businesses or they're starting other things in the end. And like, it is 100% true. Like you got to burn the bridge, and you've got to accept that like you already have enough. Like one of my good friends, Brett Gornick, says, if you know more than someone else, you can help them. And I had another guy on my podcast. He's like, if you've got something that can help someone and you're waiting for it to be perfect and you don't share it, you're an asshole. And it's like those two things, when I heard those were big catalysts for me being able to say like, no, I can quit my job at Amazon and go into the fitness industry. No, I can post a video series of some yoga stuff that I've been filming, because it can help people regardless of the fact that it's not anatomically perfectly correct. And it's crazy of me or anyone to think that you're going to get to a level of perfection that doesn't even exist.
Yep. And dude, you will literally go searching forever to find the amount of money that's appropriate for you to leave your job. Because with every single dollar you earn, more responsibility comes and you start buying more stuff or having more things, right? So it's like, if I'm a $50,000 a year earner, I live a lifestyle of a $50,000 a year earner, and I got to upkeep that lifestyle. But if I have $100,000, I live $100,000 lifestyle, and I got to upkeep $100,000. So you're never going to feel like it's so rare that you'll feel like, oh, I'm just good and now I can go leave my job. No, if you want to leave, go, generate some action. A lot of you are living in your worst case scenario, because you'll say worst case scenario is I quit and I'll go back to the job that I had, which is literally you saying out loud, I am currently living in my worst case scenario.
You just framed that in a way that like makes so much sense, and I'm cracking up because people say it all the time. Worst case scenario, you go back to the job you're in. So you're living in it right now. That is
like,
I've heard that a million times. I've heard that a million times, but all it takes, I always think of like when people speak, like there's like this giant golf ball. And one of those circles is the one that like pierces you to your core. And so you're constantly just like rotating it. And people are saying the same shit for 10 years. And then one person gets it in the right circle and then just like pierces you right in the heart. you're like, I'm an idiot. What have I been doing this entire time? Like people have been saying it the whole time. And it's just like, I'm so glad that you said that, because it is the worst case scenario. You go back to what
Well,
you're doing
here,
now.
yeah, and here's what we do, right? We look for answers. Again, it's a safety thing. We're looking for security. And you've been told a lie, my friend. Your 401k does not offer you security. Your savings account doesn't offer you security. Being a business owner doesn't allow you security. Getting married doesn't give you security. Having kids doesn't give you security. Your freaking education doesn't give you security. None of it, none of it, none of it. They're the only security that lies truly, that lies in life is within us. The only security that exists, real security, real, really feeling deep security. I don't even have another word for it. That lies within us. Yet we're looking externally for it.
Yeah.
Your 401k is cute until a world pandemic comes and sweeps all your shit away. Your
Yeah.
business is awesome and it's all set up and has an amazing projected 10 years until coronavirus comes and takes it all away. Like, do you not get, like, if you're listening now, you have been through the world pandemic. Nothing anymore is guaranteed. Like, I am so grateful for this lesson from coronavirus, right? Because it has taught us, we always said, like, oh, everything could be taken away at any moment. But none of you believed it. Neither
Yeah.
did I. And then this happened. And I'm watching the most successful people in my life go to crap. I'm watching some of the people who are in crap become the most successful people in my life. I'm watching people just do ridiculous, amazing things out of nothing. And I'm watching people who had everything lose it all because they weren't ready, because they leaned on their security and stability of whatever they had before. And the truth is, it's not anywhere outside. The stability lies, the security lies within you. And when you are good and right with you, which is why, like, I built my Project Limitless around understanding our mind and our heart and working internally. Now, the 17 people I work with, no matter what happens by the end of these 8 weeks, no matter what happens in their life, they are ready to take it on at a 1,000,000-mile-an-hour sprint. Like, fully prepared, open, able, and willing to take on whatever challenge, because the problem is not the challenge. The problem is your perception of the challenge.
Yeah.
So everything that's happening right now is a gift. Everything. And somebody's getting mad at me because they're like, wow, you are insensitive. You're a prick. You're not understanding the seriousness of this. No, you're very, very wrong. I very much understand the seriousness of it. I watched my mom and dad have coronavirus in the house that I was in and couldn't be more scared for their lives and mine, watching it happen. And how blessed am I that both of them are healthy and made it through. I'm not saying it's a small thing. I'm saying that some of you are using it once again, like everything else, as an excuse to not do the things you want to do. And all it takes is a perspective shift. I'm seeing this as an opportunity to get closer with my parents because it made me realize that the moments are fleeting and that it is finite, my relationship and time with them. So now I get to have a deeper connection with them because I watched them go through what they went through. I'm starting a business that is expanding and evolving faster than anything I've ever done now because I choose to see this moment as an opportunity. The difference between you and me is not what we have and what we don't. It's how we see it and how I see it versus how you see it.
Yeah.
And the problem for a lot of people is that they are just so caught up in their bullshit stories that they want to stay in them. And if you were to just release the bullshit story, you could step into a power that is far beyond what you could ever imagine.
Dude, I'm pumped because I feel like I've gotten stuff out of this, and I'm just like picturing someone listening on the other end 2 weeks from now, whenever this podcast comes out. And it's the stuff that I think people need to hear, because people always want to talk like how risky it is to leave their job or how risky it is to do X. But I feel like I'm getting to a point now where like the biggest risk of all is getting to 60 or 70 years old, 80 years old, however old, and being like, damn, I didn't do what I wanted to do. Like for me, that is the biggest risk. And like, as you're speaking, it's helping me reframe that and remind myself, like, all these things that I'm wanting to do, all these things people listening wanted to do, really is like the biggest risk is to not be true to yourself.
Yep. And that right there is what, dude, and I hate to bring it up, but I'm just so excited about it because I'm in it right now with this group.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we do in Project Limitless, because it's not your fault that you don't feel like that all the time. Like
Yeah.
right now you feel it because we're talking about it, and the energy is around it. And that's where our focus is. And where your focus goes, your energy flows, I think is a Tony Robbins saying, right? So
Yep.
where your focus is, that's what you're going to, your energy is going to go towards that. So what I wanted to create was something where your focus is on this 4, 5, 6 days a week.
Yeah.
So if your attention is here all the time, it's what you're going to want to put your life into. So it's not like some special sauce, it's just special attention. And when you put your attention into it, that's where your energy is going to go. So ask yourself, like right now, I had a wonderful, phenomenal guest speaker come on to speak to this group at Project Limitless yesterday. Her name is Genevieve Paturo. She's the founder of the Pajama Program, a program that helps, it's a foundation that helps, it raises money, gets pajamas and books for kids who are in underprivileged communities. And I have a good family relationship with her for years and years. My family has been donating to her foundation. So she came and she spoke, and it was so beautiful. And she's actually launching a book on August 4th. So it's called Passion, Purpose, and Pajamas, I believe is the title, by Genevieve Paturo. Go buy it. She's amazing. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait to read it. And she spoke about this moment where her heart spoke to her. She said, it was a shift from my head voice to my heart voice. And I remember it asking me, if you were doing what you're doing right now in 30 years, would that be enough? And she said that changed everything. And I hate to get like, that's like so classic motivational content right there. But for real, if you in 30 years from now looked back and you were still doing the same stuff you're doing right now, because you're in that like routine of your, and I'm not hating on 9 to 5s. If you love your 9 to 5, don't you dare leave it. If it makes you happy, do it. I'm all about it.
It's where the awareness comes in. Like, know where you are so that you can go and chase what makes you happy.
100%. So just ask yourself, like, when I'm 30 years from now, will I be okay if this is all that I did? Like, if I just did this on repeat? And if the answer is no, stop and think and go do something different. Like, you can keep doing that, but create something that's it's a novelty in your life, energy, something exciting. I love talking about this. So if people want to talk about it, just DM me and let's talk about it.
Where can people find you? Because I want to be respectful of your time. Where can people find you? How can they find out about Project Limitless and all the other projects that you're working on?
So most of my time is spent on Instagram at Nick Pags Fit, NickPagsFit. And I'm very active on there. You can also check out my YouTube channel. It's Nick Pags. You can see it on there.
We'll link to all that.
Yep, everything. And then you can email me, nickpagsfit@gmail.com. The best way is really to hit me on Instagram or email. And I love to, just reach out. I love to sit and have these discussions and talk about, if you're in a place in your life where you want to expand, grow, and evolve, and you're just feeling stuck, but you really do want more money, you want more impact, you want to generate more abundance and high energy in your life. I'm grateful to say I just built a community that helps people live in that. So let's talk about it. Let's get on a call.
2 real quick questions before I let you go. You can sit down and have dinner with anyone alive or dead. Who would that one person be?
Wow.
Big Italian dinner. I know you're an Italian guy.
There you go. Now we're talking.
Whatever dinner you were on.
Dude, it's really interesting because my initial gut feeling was like E.T. Like, I've sat with him before and talked to him briefly, but to be able to just sit with him. But honestly, I don't feel like I'm there in my life yet to be able to get, like, I would get so much from him. But like, a 7-year-old can't ask a pro football player how to play football.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a waste of time. Just as the 7-year-old asked the 12-year-old who's really good. That makes more sense, right? E.T. to me is like, he's way up there in the game and he has so much depth. Like, I'm not ready. I think I would underutilize those moments. So this sounds a little mushy, but my great grandma, who she died when I was 15, 2007. And she was like, my mom is one of my biggest inspirations in my life, probably my biggest inspiration in my life. And she is like, she's my mom, just older. And she has such incredible knowledge. She was an immigrant from Scotland that came over here on her own at 18 years old. And she lived to be 90, 94, I think, 96. And just had like those one-liner punchlines of just like amazingness. And she was so powerful for this little 5'1" woman. And I would love to just at this age and stage in my life be able to sit with her and learn from her.
Yeah. All right, last one. I find speaking is similar to musicians and how they can control a crowd and really transfer their energy. If you could go see one artist right now, I feel like that's the one thing that I'm missing the most is concerts. Like, who's that one artist you're gonna go see?
John Mayer, every day, all day. John Mayer. I'm
Every day, all
such
day.
a fanboy, dude. I love J May. John, if you're listening, give me a call, dog.
Oh man. Oh, we'll have to get some CDs out to the listeners or something so that they can jam with you.
Love John Mayer, like forever. Been the biggest fan. His music just hits me hard, and I think he's kind of been a dick most of his life, but he's had a pretty big transformation in the past few years. It seems from how he speaks and the energy he has now. So I wish him the best.
Cool. All right, man. Nick, this has been so fun. I've loved your energy, and I'm really excited to get to know you more and stay connected. So hope you guys stay safe and healthy wherever you're at, on the East Coast. And I'll catch you soon.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate the time. Humbled and grateful.
Take it easy. Wow. So if you guys are not absolutely hyped at this point, check your pulse, because that was one of the most powerful podcasts that I've had the opportunity of hosting, of being on. And you can just tell from the energy that this guy creates that he is going to change lives and be impactful. And you're going to see him on stage, like ET mentioned, right? You look at someone like a Tony Robbins and you wonder who's going to be the people that 20, 30 years from now are holding that space. And I guarantee you Nick's going to be right up there with them. I took a lot out of this, and it just think about this, wherever you're at right now, if you want to make that jump and you'd say to yourself, worst case scenarios, I go back to where I'm at, that means you're living in your worst case scenario. If that hasn't sunk in yet, that's just the biggest thing is take that action, act boldly, consistently. And like I said, if you guys didn't get anything out of this podcast, man, check the pulse, because that had me super pumped. If you enjoyed today's podcast or any of the podcasts that we've done in the past, I'd appreciate it if you could just subscribe, leave a 5-star rating and review, help me to continue to grow the podcast and get on awesome people like Nick. If you have any questions, want to reach out to me, head to downdogathletics.com. You can shoot me an email, you can sign up for a coaching program, or you can just get some free programs. Got a bunch of different stuff that you can get. Just trade your email and you get different workouts, different yoga, mobility stuff, mental stuff. It's all on there, downdogathletics.com. You can shoot me a message, Paul_Klingen on Instagram. Reach out to Nick. Tag us if you enjoyed the podcast as well. Other than that, I'll let you guys go. You guys go have an awesome rest of your week, and I'll catch you next time on the Down Dog Athletics Podcast.